Here he is, former Vancouver Canuck, TSN hockey analyst, the one and only Mr. Frank Corrado. How we doing, Frank?
We're doing well. How you guys doing?
Yeah, very well.
Good.
Ask you the poll question straight up here. Did the Canucks lose game 2 because of bad luck?
Bad. No, I don't think it was bad luck. I think the first goal is bad luck, but outside of that, like I don't think it's bad luck. I think Nashville is a pretty good team, and if you thought the series was going to be really quick, like I think you have another thing coming because like the team had. I know we made a lot of them not beating a lot of playoff teams down the stretch, and that was true. That's a fact, but they still won a lot of games that they had to win. And it's a tight playoffs. We're seeing it everywhere right now. So it was going to be a tightly contested series regardless. Losing Demko is obviously massive, but I don't think it's bad luck. That's the main contributing factor.
So answer me this, Frank. When you have that many shots blocked in a hockey game and you miss the goal on that many attempts, all combined, what's the fix there? How do the Canucks have to adjust and adapt? And they got 2 days here. Is there anything they can do in practice to combat Nashville shot blocking or just simply missing the goal as frequently as they missed the goal last night?
It's the old minor hockey thing where you go down in practice, you take a shot, you miss the net, and coach tells you to do 5 push-ups. That's obviously not happening. But the one thing that will happen for sure is when you're doing your sort of like offensive zone routines and drills in practice, a lot of the times you take shots on net, right? Maybe now you work on putting someone at the side of the net with a stick, and every point shot, we're looking for someone at the side of the net. We're looking to make plays off the back door. We're not going to be as predictable as here's a shot on net. We're going to try and put it through and see if we can score. Like we're looking at everything on the back side. So that'll be the first adjustment as far as all the shot blocks from Nashville. But man, is it ever noticeable? Like Nashville, they really take a lot of pride in blocking a lot of shots. They want to get in front of everything. And, when that's the case, it does, if you're so used to doing something, it changes your mindset, right? Like if I get a puck at the point, I stop that thing. I want to shoot it because I want to score. I want to create a rebound. Like I want to put the best possible shot that I possibly can. Now, all of a sudden, I have to change instinctually to, instead of trying to like fire a 2 foot off the ground shot to the net, I have to look at the back post. So now my line of sight actually needs to change, which is always interesting because you have all these patterns and routines as a player that you do. You're like, okay, stop the puck, look up, take your shot, move on with the next play. Now it's like, stop the puck, look up, wait a second. That's not what I'm doing here. We've changed. I got to look a little bit there. Okay, there's my stick at the side of the net that I'm looking for. So it's just, those are the types of things that now that they have to make a little more instinctual because of Nashville's ability to block all these shots.
Is there any sense in driving so they've got 6 goalies. They're just camped in front. Do you
Gillis's prediction, we might as well just call this word goalie.
Yeah.
So that's what we've got.
I mean, it was
right?
quarter offense, basically. Especially in the third period. The Preds are just like, we're going to try to win this, 2-1, 3-1. How about if you just keep on rolling towards the slot? You're going to get poke checked. The puck's going to get poked off your stick a lot of the time, but it's something different. Do you go to that? Do you just try to roll into the slot and bulldoze into the slot yourself, just to throw off what they're trying to do? Any other fixes here besides trying to feed the slot? Because they did try that a little late. Suter had a redirect chance in front.
Mm-hmm. That was close. Like if that goes in, if that Suter on the back door goes in, like it's a little different, the ending of the game. But I totally get what you're saying. And I think the main thing is you have to remember Saros, he's playing really well. Like he's been solid. So now you always kind of grapple with this quantity versus quality approach when it comes to shots on net, because you take a look at all the teams around the league. There are some teams that generate a ton of shot attempts, a ton of shots, but when it comes to what are they actually getting of quality, it's not very much. And then you look at their goal totals, and that kind of tells you the story. Now, I think with Saros, in a perfect world, you would generate a lot of the quality chances that you would like to generate. But because he's so good, like you're going to need to have the quantity involved, and just think that the amount of volume that you're consistently throwing there is going to help you. I think the scouting report for every goaltender, the really good ones, it's the same for every guy. Like you go through all the series and it's like, Boston doesn't say who they're going to start, whether it's Ullmark or Swayman. Doesn't really matter because the scouting report is the same. Get him moving side to side, make him play deep in his net, get bodies in front of him, look for tips on the back door. It's the same for Saros. Like Saros is one of the most athletic goalies in the league. So, chances are he's going to want to come out and challenge you a little bit. Does that make him a little more susceptible to something off the back post? Like, get him moving as much as you possibly can. But like it's hard. There's like it's hard and it's hard for a reason, because the other team is really kind of buttoned up in that area of the ice. But I do agree with you. Like the more you can kind of create, little battles and dog piles in those situations, maybe you get a stick on it. But I think regardless of all these things that we're talking about, the bad luck, the creating shot attempts, finding ways to get shots through, none of that matters. It's all secondary unless your best players are your best players. And there is one player in particular who they need a lot more from.
Well, and that's where the bad luck part comes in. I mean, he had 2 empty nets. He passes off on one of them and then just hits the side of the net, like badly on the side of the net on the other one. So before we get to Pettersson, though, Brunette's going to make some changes as well. Like, do the Preds try to win 4 games like that? Do they, we've been batting around. Like, if they play that game again, do the Canucks lose that game again?
I would ask, what other game do they have? Like, what's the Preds?
That's not how they won. That's not how they won. They won creating scoring chances, in that 18-game streak.
For sure. Watching Nashville, like they obviously want to push the pace up the ice as quickly as possible, and that is still going to be part of their game. But when you have the ability to block the shots, when you have the ability to kind of button things up defensively the way they are doing, of course you're going to do it. I just think if you're blocking a lot of shots, chances are you probably are out of position a little bit. Like chances are you lost some kind of altercation and didn't get the puck, and the offensive team, in this case Vancouver, they were able to get the puck. So you would think, with that being the case, things should open up for the Canucks a little bit more. But I don't know, like there's something about a team that kind of binds together that way, that really buys into that, like paying the price mentality. It's contagious throughout the group. Like, someone blocks a big shot, the bench goes nuts. Now someone's like, I want to block a shot. Like, I want the boys to cheer for me that way. Like, I think that there's something to be said for that. And it is different than how they won. But I think that also goes to show you that, a good team like that can play in different ways and have success in different ways. Because if they just showed up here and said, we only win one way, then it would be a very short series and the Canucks would win it. So they're obviously making adjustments and trying to do things differently. But it's just, that's kind of what they're doing. That's what they've bought into doing. And I think it's credit to them that now they're going back on home ice, and they'll get the matchup they want, and now how do the Canucks handle that? Because they're going to need to start winning a few more matchups, I guess, at 5-on-5.
What have you seen, or maybe what haven't you seen from Elias Pettersson?
Whew, man, what a lack of confidence. Like what a significant lack of confidence. Just watching the sequence last night where he gets the seam pass and he has a wide open net and he saucers it across the crease. Like that's one. Okay. Like no one could explain that, because so many times Pettersson has gotten that puck, and you guys have seen it. Stick handle one, fire a wrist shot. Or if it's in your wheelhouse, it's a one-timer, and it's a hard one-timer. And you know what I mean? Like, that is so uncharacteristic for him. And then the second one that comes across in the dying seconds of the first period is even more bizarre, because I get that the clock is running and you have a mental clock in your head, but he had time to at least stop it and pop it on the net. Like, he didn't have to do that weird release thing where he brings it into his body. It looks so uncomfortable. So that was really crazy. And the other thing, it's like, if you're not going to be, on the ledger offensively, I guess. Like if you're not going to have the goal, the assist, if you're not going to lead the way, you cannot be a detriment to your team defensively, because he has relied upon way too much in so many different areas. And then of course he's got the giveaway that ends up leading to the Sissons goal, and he's with Sissons. Like he had an opportunity to kind of cover up for that mistake, and he doesn't do it. So and I liked what Tocchet said after the game. He just said, like, it's good for him to experience this. Like he's a young guy. I think all of that is true, but he doesn't have a lot of time to kind of sit there and dwell on it. Like he's got to turn into EP40, the real one, in a hurry, because like outside of JT Miller, like he needs to win matchups at 5-on-5. At 5-on-5, his line was terrible last night. They got caved in. They that cannot be the case. And now it's not going to get any easier going into Nashville, which is a very difficult building to play in. And now, like, what's Brunette trying to do? Where's he going to spread Ryan O'Reilly? I don't know. It's not going to get easier for him going on the road.
Elias sort of reminds me of Roberto in this vein. So bloody competitive, so harsh on themselves that they have trouble getting over mistakes and poor performances, that they carry failure forward a little bit because they're just so upset with it. Markstrom, I think, was a little bit like this as
well.
I'll
say this is the most emotion we've seen out of him, good or bad, deconstructive or constructive, in a long time. He was stone-faced for much of the final third of the season. At least we're seeing some emotion out of him. So
but now some of it is negative body language, though.
Sure.
Like throwing your head up and all of that. Talk me through that, Frank. How do you get your confidence back, and how do you try to shelter the group when you're the guy who's down on himself?
Because I'm sure Rick Tocchet doesn't want the rest of the group looking at that body language.
No kidding. Well, you guys, have you ever seen that movie, Forgetting Sarah Marshall? You know which one I'm talking about, with Paul Rudd? And you know when he's on the surfboard, right? And the guy he's telling him do less. He's like, oh okay, and then he does nothing. He's like, well, you got to do something. Yeah. But it's almost applicable in this situation, where it's like, the more you want to do, the more you want to put on your shoulders, the harder it's going to be, and the more forced it's going to be. Like it's one of those things now where it's very difficult to kind of put it behind you and just say, let's just roll. We're going to forget about what happened, and we'll play this kind of flow state style of game. But that's what needs to happen. Generally, I always found that the guys who had a lower give a shit meter, right? And it seemed that way, where it's like they just show up to the rink and they play and they don't think about much. They were so good at brushing those kinds of things off, but not everyone is wired that way. And, for him, like, that'll be the challenge, because he takes so much pride in what he does and his craft. And, I said it on SportsCenter last night, and it's been on this morning. Just, he's such a unique player. Like, as far as the dynamic players, the dynamic centermen in the league, a lot of the guys are built the same. They have the same kind of look to their game. When Pettersson is at his best and he's confident, he looks a little bit different. The stride is different. The stick handling motion is different. His ability to kind of juke and jive through the neutral zone, it's just a little bit different. But he has to be confident in his ability to have that uniqueness kind of show up in his game. And he doesn't have it now. But if he almost like takes a step back and takes a breath and says, I don't have to do this all myself, like there is more contributing factors here, that would help him. That would really help him kind of feel a little more free to play and contribute.
It's getting hard to believe that things are going to get better.
That's good. Very good.
Thank you.
Dracula song at the end.
Dracula, Clement, Jason Segel.
Yeah, that's very good.
Nice.
Sarah Marshall.
Nice. What does the team do with the other bad news? They found out Tyler Myers has got the flu. I mean, I guess there's a chance for game 3 for Tyler Myers if he makes a miraculous recovery. There's the fear now that the rest of the team's going to come down with this, because you'd think he got it from Rick Tocchet, who was sick right before the Edmonton game, was it? At the end of the season. And of course, Demko's gone as well. We haven't spoken to you since then as well. So there's enough bad news already without even the loss in game number 2. Rick Tocchet is going to have to channel his inspirational best here, isn't he?
For sure. All right. Like, I don't know, like the Thatcher Demko thing, it's quite obvious the impact that has on the team. The Tyler Myers one, hopefully he's back soon. Juleson has the 2 penalties. He's got the play there with Forsberg. It wasn't a great look. He had some other moments where he throws a big hit and he kind of settled into the game in that way. But it just kind of goes to show you, I think, when you're thinking about the Canucks in the long term, like Tyler Myers was really effective for the team. And the team is worse without Tyler Myers. So that's always something you got to keep in mind, especially in these kinds of situations where, you think having a guy with that length and that wingspan, Matt, really, really kind of helps you. But yeah, like, the inspirational stuff, all that is fine and dandy. You go on the ice and you either do it or you don't. Like, really, that's the bottom line. You can have the best inspirational speech. You could have the closed door meeting, all that kind of stuff. It's like you stay in the moment and you try and own the moment. And that's the challenge for every team. Like, if you're watching around the league right now and you want to see a team that owns the moment more than anyone, look no further than the Florida Panthers. Like, they own the moment better than anyone. Whether it's the goalie Bobrovsky making an incredible save he's completely down and out, Carter Verhaeghe with another overtime winner gives him 5, like, which is on the all-time list, like he's third all time. And just the Panthers are now 11-0. 11 straight overtime playoff wins. So, like, there's a team that, they could say all the right things, which I'm sure they do. All these teams do. But when the moment gets big, they own that moment. And that'll be the challenge for the Canucks, just like it's the challenge for every other team around the league. And the teams that generally own those moments more will go on and have more success. And they have an opportunity to do that. And they have the players to do that. Like Casey DeSmith and net, or Artur Silovs, whoever's going to play, there's an opportunity for those guys to cement their legacy as playoff performers who got sprung into action when they weren't supposed to. But how do you wrap your head around capturing that moment?
Joe Sakic and Rocket Richard, 2 guys Carter Verhaeghe trails for playoff overtime goals in a career.
Crazy.
It's astonishing. When I heard that last night,
Frankie,
I had to go check it out. I want to ask him about DeSmith here.
Okay, before we get to that, Frank, would your career have been a little longer if you were 6'8" like Nikita Zadorov? Do you think? Do you think that would have helped?
It would have been a little longer for sure. It also would have been longer if I got out of my own way. Like, what Matt was just talking about,
Yes.
like guys who are really hard on themselves and can't let it go. That was me. Like, I would go back to the bench. I would think about it. Intermission, I would think about it. After the game, I couldn't let it go. Like, I was just way too wrapped up in it. And I wish, like, I saw guys and I felt like, why doesn't that guy give a shit? Meanwhile, I should have had that mentality, but I just wasn't wired that way. So yeah, also being 6'8" would have helped. I think 6'8" would have like helped overcome all the mental shortcomings.
He's been pretty good, huh? Like, I mean, he's stepped up for a guy that isn't exactly known as a playoff performer yet in his career. That was a pretty good couple of games here for Nikita Zadorov.
Not only would his career have been longer, his arms would have been longer too.
It's true. Yeah, it would have helped.
That's right.
Lastly, Casey DeSmith is a former teammate of yours. Tell me how you think he's going to handle this spot of having to play for Demko for, let's face it, the foreseeable future, and particularly coming off a loss.
I hope well. I hope well for his sake. I hope well for the team's sake. Man, does he get put in a jam, though, when that first shot gets deflected and it goes in and the crowd is chanting his name. Like, everyone wants him to do well. He wants to do well. It's one of those things right now where we're in the time of year where all the, physical tools that you talk about with a player, those kind of just get thrown out the window because we know what they are at this point and they're not changing. But it's all about the 6 inches between the ears. Like that, whoever can challenge that, whoever can kind of stay the most focused and stay in that state of flow where, the negative thoughts aren't creeping in, or, the thoughts of, what could happen, what could go wrong. When those don't creep into your headspace, man, you're in a good place. And I hope for his sake, that's what's going on. Like, I hope it's not that, because, you could think about the magnitude of the situation, that's not going to help. But if you can think about the process involved and what you need to do to get yourself ready mentally in order to play, that's better than thinking about what the result could or could not be or the consequences. So I hope he can find it. It's tough with goalies. They're really hard to get a read on. I will say, though, of a lot of the goalies I played with over the course of my career, he was definitely the most, or if not the most normal of all of them. So maybe, I don't know if that works with him or against him. Like, some goalies are so weird that you think, that guy's a lunatic. Yeah, there's no way he's thinking weird stuff. You know what I mean? Like, he's in a weird place. But then maybe a normal guy is just like, hey, he's just a mortal, just like everyone. Who,
he feels normal emotions. That could be bad. You're right. That could be bad.
Yeah, it just goes to show you, like, goalies are so weird, and we have no sense of them.
No, you've got to be wary of those normie goaltenders.
Yes, that's true.
All right.
Yeah.
Frank, thank you for this. Wishing you Paul Rudd surf teacher vibes.
Yes.
Okay, we'll catch up next week.
Always remember, do less.
Do less. Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.